Hello there, lovely fiction authors. So, this week I am doing a workshop called Secrets to Infusing Every Part of Your Story with Emotion so that you can satisfy more readers, create more mega fans, and build a fiction empire. If you have not joined the workshop yet, there is still time. As of the recording of this, it's going through this Friday. And you can register and, just watch the replays from the first couple of days. You can register at bit.ly/6FS workshop, and I will put that in the show notes. If you're listening to this weeks later, then don't bother because it will have already been taken down. But what I decided to do this week is that the first training that I did is 3 mistakes that many authors are making in 2024 that are killing their sales. And a lot of times the mistakes workshops or the mistakes trainings, recordings that I do tend to resonate with you guys. I always notice that we get a lot of downloads on those. So a lot of times I'll just put that up, the first training in the podcast feed so you can listen to it. But what I decided to do this time is to break it into kind of mini episodes. So I'm going to do 3 episodes over the next 3 days. They're only going to be 10 to 15 minutes long, so they're kind of shorty episodes, and I'll just talk about one of each of the 3 mistakes in each one. All right, so that's what we're going to do for these 3 shorter episodes. I hope you enjoy them and get something out of them. And without further ado, let's get into the mistake that we're talking about today. Do you yearn to make your living from writing fiction? Do you struggle to finish your manuscript due to block, indecision, or lack of confidence in your story? Have you already published books that just aren't getting the sales you'd like? The truth is, the thing that really makes a difference in book sales is not currently being taught in the fiction author space. And it comes from the story level, not the marketing level. Real talk, if you don't get it right at the story level, no amount of awesome marketing is going to make your book a bestseller. Hi, I'm Liesl. I've got 20 fiction books, 4 genres, the USA Today bestseller accolade, and multiple award wins under my belt. So, obviously, I've been around the block a few times. I have a lot of readers that follow me from genre to genre, even though conventional wisdom says that's rare. Why? Because my readers know that I know how to tell a story that's going to make them feel something. And if you can master that skill, you can write anything you want for the rest of your life and know it will be well received by readers, which means better reviews, more gushing, more mega fans, and best of all, more royalties for you. Grab your fuzzy slippers and your chocolate of choice. I'm going to teach you how to emotionally engineer your story into the hearts and minds of your readers on purpose. Let's go. But for right now, we're going to move on to the second mistake, which is writing from your conscious mind. So some of you might be thinking, well, of course, I write from my conscious mind. I think that's supposed to say conscious, not subconscious. Sorry, that's a typo. What else would I be writing from, right? Thanks for the question. So glad you asked, but let's do a quick lesson on where your writing truly comes from. So mistake number 1, as I said, was about connecting with your reader. Mistake number 2 is more about you, the author. It's about where your creativity, your emotions, your stories, and even your words and sentences come from. We all, meaning human beings, have 3 different minds. Did you know that? There's the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind. Now, we aren't going to talk a lot about the superconscious mind today because it's kind of outside the scope of this workshop, but we do need to discuss the conscious and subconscious minds. So, the conscious mind is what takes care of day-to-day activities. It's what you use to go through your day, to go to work, to get things done on your to-do list, to make dinner. This is what you usually think about when you are thinking about what your mind is. It's your conscious mind, okay? The subconscious mind is below the conscious mind. It is stuff that we are unaware of consciously, hence the subconscious mind. It houses both our emotions and our creativity. And I want you to really think about that. Let that sink in. Your emotions and your creativity both come from your subconscious mind. Those are the 2 probably most important components that we use to write our stories, and they are both housed in the subconscious mind. Now, it's important to know that we human beings, again, we can switch between the 2 minds all the time. So let me give you this as an example, because I know you will all have done this. Because you are writers, you're also readers. So think about the last time you got really, really lost in a good book. You were sitting somewhere in your house, wherever you like to read, whether you're laying on your bed or in your favorite easy chair, just imagine yourself there and you're reading your book and you get very, very lost in the story, meaning you're really engrossed in it. You're imagining what's happening in the story in your mind's eye, right? And I want you to think about how it feels when you have that experience. So let's just say that you're sitting in your bedroom, you're sitting on your bed reading, and it's not like the bedroom goes away or that you don't know where you are or anything like that. You're conscious of your surroundings and where you are, but it's just kind of backburnered because what you're focusing on are the events that are going on in the story. And interestingly, we can kind of throw this in as a detail as well. You're reading the words on the page, whether it's a print book or a digital book, but you're not even focusing on the words. Using the conscious mind to focus on the words would be reading the words. It would be, and Jane went to the store. The way little kids learn to read, that's the conscious mind. But you almost like relax your conscious mind and you're actually seeing the story in your mind's eye. That's your subconscious mind taking over, okay? Then let's just say that, like I said, you're reading in your room and in the next room, maybe in the kitchen, something drops and goes crash. What happens? Well, it jerks you out of the story. You jump up to go make sure everything's okay in there, nobody's hurt, And that is an example of you switching between your conscious and your subconscious mind. So when you relaxed your conscious mind and got into the story, you switched from your conscious to your subconscious. When something went crash in the other room, it switched you from the subconscious back to the conscious so you could see what was going on in the moment. You see what I mean? We switch back and forth all the time. That's normal, and that's the way that we are created as human beings. Another example of this is driving home mindlessly. I don't know if anyone's ever done this, where you're driving. It doesn't have to be to home. It could be from home. It could be to work. It's to the store, a route that you drive all the time, right? So you're very, very used to it. And then when you get to your destination, you realize you have like no memory of actually driving. You're going, did I run any red lights? Crap, I hope not. And the answer is you didn't. You were just completely on autopilot. And that, again, you were in your subconscious mind. So you were driving and you were still driving consciously. You were still aware with it. If anything had happened, if you'd run a red light or a stop sign or someone honked at you, it would have immediately, pulled you out of the subconscious and back into the conscious. So the fact that you don't remember anything means you really did follow all the traffic rules. You were just doing it, like I said, on autopilot, right? But then when you get where you're going, then you're like, okay, we're here and now we got to do X, Y, and Z. So you're back in your conscious mind again, okay? These are just some examples of how we move back and forth so that you understand that you do this all the time. You're just unaware of what you're doing. So you've already been using your subconscious mind to write, and you switch between the two very often, but you haven't, I would bet, been harnessing it very intentionally. So let's talk real fast about the myth of the muse. I don't know. I don't see this quite as often anymore, although it could just be that I'm kind of missing it. But there's a lot of people, or at least it used to be, a lot of people who believed that only certain people were gifted enough to write. And they had to wait for the muse to show up and give them inspiration. But I'm here to tell you that nothing could be further from the truth. That's something that's been taught in the past because people did not understand the subconscious mind. But the subconscious mind is the muse, okay? Remember what I said before. It's where your emotions come from. It's where your creativity comes from. So the inspiration you need is already within your subconscious mind. The problem is that when you try to force the muse, when you try to force the inspiration and sit down and go, okay, I have to figure out what's going to happen in my story, it just retreats farther and farther. And what you're actually doing there is you're trying to use the conscious mind to write your story rather than the subconscious mind. You got to stop being so logical about what happens in your story, okay? And I'm going to explain this. I'm going to show you how to do this. But the point is, if you can learn to harness your subconscious mind, you won't have to wait on the muse anymore. You'll just be able to tap into your own innate, unique creativity on command. And that is my goal for you, to be able to do that. So you just have to understand that no matter what you're struggling with or trying to achieve, even outside of writing, if you're having trouble achieving it, it's probably a subconscious mind problem. And this is even more true of fiction writing than other things. Why? Because unlike goals in other parts of our lives where they still have a subconscious aspect to them, but might be very rooted in the physical, creativity and emotion is 100% rooted in the subconscious mind. And that is 100% how we get our stories figured out, right? So coming up with our stories, figuring out the best plot event to drive them, even figuring out the best words and phrases and sentences to use in order to convey emotion on the page, that all comes from our subconscious mind. So are you already using your subconscious mind to write? It's really not the best question to be asking. I mean, I already answered it, and for the record, it is yes, you are. I talked about switching between, so you do use both. But more than that, I personally don't think it's possible to do anything creative with the conscious mind. It's just simply not what that part of our brain was created to do. So if you've done anything creative, if you've done any writing already, then of course you've been using your subconscious brain. You really couldn't be using anything else. But the $64 million question here is not whether you're using your subconscious mind, because of course you are. It's, have you been using your subconscious mind as effectively as possible? And the answer to that is more than likely no. So I want you to consider a condiment lid. I looked in my fridge and I didn't have one. I kind of wanted to show it to you guys as an example, but I don't have it. But I want you to think about something like hot sauce or lemon juice. Generally, they come in a long, skinny bottle, and at the top, there is a little plastic lid with a tiny little hole in it, right? So that that condiment doesn't come out very quickly. And the reason that they do that, the manufacturers are just looking out for us so that we don't accidentally dump, half a cup of hot sauce or something on our food when we only wanted a few dashes. And, we're happy about that. We're glad that the manufacturer is watching out for us, because that would be a bummer. But when you're cooking and you need to use that same condiment, you tend to need a lot more because you're putting it in an entire recipe or an entire batch. So we'll go with lemon juice. Let's say you're making lemon curd. Depending on the recipe and how much you're making, you might need a half a cup of lemon juice or even a full cup of lemon juice or, whatever the case may be. And if you're sitting there with that plastic lid on the top of the lemon juice with that little tiny opening, you're going to be sitting here trying to fill up 8 ounces or 16 ounces of lemon juice. It's going to take you like an hour. So what do you do in that case? Well, what I do is I grab a fork and I use the tines and just pop off that little plastic top that it has. And then it's a much wider opening and I can just pour whatever I need in only a few seconds, right? So that's kind of a weird analogy for a writing workshop, right? First of all, if you get to know me, I like to bake, so I use a lot of baking analogies. You'll get used to it. But more to the point, this is what you do when you stop trying to use your conscious mind to write and switch over to the subconscious mind. When you're trying to force your story, you're just using a trickle of the subconscious mind that's coming through. And this is why writing can be so hard. This is why you get stuck trying to figure out your stories. But when you learn how to tap directly into your subconscious mind, you open the floodgates of your creativity and everything is so much easier. If you can learn to do this on command, and I can teach you how, you'll never deal with block or indecision again. I mean, you'll have decisions you need to make in your story that you might be like, I'm not sure, but this teaches you just how to work through them pretty easily. You just boom, boom, boom. Okay, got it figured out. Keep going. You know what I mean? You're not going to actually get blocked long term. You'll never not be able to finish a book again. You will be able to figure out the sequence, the plot events, and the ending of every book. You'll never have to feel dissatisfied with the ending because using your conscious mind is actually tapping into your unique soul, your unique experiences, beliefs, all of that. And you can figure out what the best thing is for your book. And so you're never going to feel like it's not good enough anymore. And you'll never have to worry that your reader won't like it because it will come from your own soul. So that same thing again. I'm not going to go into soul stories too much today. I will touch on them more tomorrow, but your subconscious is also linked to your soul. And if you think about your emotions, it's all part of the same thing. So using your subconscious mind also helps you tell your most unique, authentic soul story. And your readers, trust me, automatically will connect with that a lot more than with something you forced out using your conscious mind. So lots and lots of reasons to not use your conscious mind to write your story and tap into your subconscious instead. The point is, when you're trying to figure out, say, the end of your story, okay, and you're going, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? I got to figure this out. What's going to happen? And then you go, oh, I know, this is going to happen. And then you think about it and go, that kind of sucks. Okay, what else? We've all been there, right? Just trying to
figure out how we're going to tell the story, what's going to happen next, how to connect the bigger plot events, how to transition, what's the ending going to be, all of that, right? But doing what I just showed you is the epitome of trying to force things with your conscious mind, okay? Because you're trying to logically, consciously come up with what's going to happen next, and you're not tapping into your subconscious. And not only is that frustrating to you, the author, because it doesn't feel epic, and it doesn't feel emotional, and it doesn't feel authentic, but it's also just a fact that your reader is not going to connect with it very deeply. And then you have that problem we talked about at the beginning, where maybe you'll sell a lot of books up front, but then when people read it, they're not going to feel the emotion. They're not going to feel the deep catharsis, so it's going to tank. And obviously, that's not good. So I'm going to teach you my number one tip for intentionally tapping into your subconscious mind and getting all the ideas to just flow in just another few minutes. So that will teach you how to fix this particular mistake. It's going to be part of your homework tonight, but I think you can kind of see from everything I've said that using your conscious mind and not tapping into the subconscious mind is resulting in unfocused, often mediocre, unfortunately, stories, because the emotion just isn't there, and that is killing your book sales. Okay, so I'm going to give you this tip, but I want to get through the final mistake first, and then I'll talk about what it is and give you your homework for tonight.
Okay, I hope that was helpful and that you got something out of that. Once again, if you would still like to join the workshop, you can go to bit.ly/6FS, which I will also put in the show notes. Everyone have a wonderful day and a wonderful week of writing, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening today. If this episode helped or inspired you in any way, would you do me a solid and leave me a review? Reviews help other fiction authors find the podcast. You can also recommend it to a writer friend of yours so they can get the same inspiration you got. Remember, you have a story inside you that only you can tell. So get out there and write your soul story, because your readers are waiting for it with bated breath.